This demonstration is on entering a non-point source into a TICE project. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to enter the residential natural gas heating source that we discussed in the slides. And I'm going to pretend that this source is on the White Mountain Apache tribe. And I want to remind you that these data are totally fake, and these is just for demonstration purposes only. So to enter the source, we have to open Input View first. So we click on the input icon, and that opens the linear data entry screen, also known as Input View. And so we're going to be entering a non-point source. So what we have to do is click on the non-point sources bar right here, and that opens up the area that we can enter our non-point source into. So the first thing we want to do is enter the location. So we click on non-point locations, and we click on Add. So that brings up this screen where we can add what location that this non-point source is located in. So the first thing we have to do is select the state, and that's Arizona. And then we have to select the tribe, so we click on the little radio button next to tribe. And we click on these three dots to find the tribe. And this lists all the tribes in Arizona. And we're going to select White Mountain Apache. And then we have to click on OK to save this data. If we click on this X button here, the data are not saved, so be very wary of that. Click on the OK button to save your data. So now we can see the linear data entry screen, and we can see that we entered the White Mountain Apache tribe as our location. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to enter the process, and for non-point sources, a process is pretty much the source. So we're going to go ahead and click on non-point processes, and we're going to click on the Add button. And notice that the breadcrumb panel up here is starting to build. So any process we add right from here is going to go into the White Mountain Apache tribe. So we'll click on Add. You'll see the data entry screen come up, and you want to fill in as much data as you can on these screens. And remember that the green fields are mandatory fields. And this is the process description field that is especially important for you to enter data into. So we'll enter residential natural gas heating into the process description. And then we're going to find our source classification code, our SCC. We're going to click on this three dots button here to open up the search for the SCC. And you'll see on my screen I've got my DPI, which is my text size on my computer, set to medium. And so what happens is the buttons scroll off the side. And for that, we can't see the search button anymore. But if you enter a text in here and press Enter on your keyboard, it's like pressing the search button. That looks like the binoculars. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to type in natural gas. And here you would click on the binoculars button, but I'm just going to click Enter. And that shows all of the SCCs that have something to do with natural gas. And we see here there's some residential ones that look of interest. So, okay, we've got stationary source, fuel combustion, residential natural gas. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to click on it to select it, and then click OK. And that adds the SCC to my TICE project. Now comes the really exciting part. Now what we're going to do is use the TICE calculator to estimate emissions for that particular process. So here is the cool estimate button. So this estimate button is going to launch the TICE calculator to get those emissions into your TICE project. So we click on estimate, and the first thing it says is you don't have an emission period for this particular process. What do you want me to do? So you need to create a new period, and the period class most likely is going to be annual because you're working on an annual emissions inventory. You're working on the entire 2016. So you want to select annual, and then you click OK. Now this is so cool. So this is new to this version of TICE. And the new thing is that for certain SCCs, TICE finds the calculator for you. So notice here, it found the natural gas combustion calculator for you, so you don't have to search for it. For the more common sources, we have this set up in TICE, but for some of the other sources, we don't. And if it's not showing a calculator here, what you need to do is type over this text to search SCC and enter the text of the calculator. So if it was something very, not very commonly used, maybe, I don't know, solvent use for perfume or something like that, you would type in solvent use for perfume and try to search for the calculator. If you can't find a calculator, let us know and we can help you find the appropriate calculator, or perhaps there is no calculator for that and we have to find some emission factors online. But for this particular example, it found the calculator, so we're good to go. So we just click OK. So the calculator comes up. The screen behind it has the information about the calculator, and if we scroll down, we can see the links. We're going to enter this data into the TICE calculator. So the combustor type is going to be residential furnaces because we're doing residential emissions. And remember to check your units here, because notice that these units are in million cubic feet. MM stands for million, and the number that we got from the company was 900,000 cubic feet. So we're going to have to divide 900,000 by a million to get the value in million cubic feet. So that number becomes 0.9 million cubic feet. And the heating value of natural gas that the company gave us was 980 BTUs per cubic feet, so we don't have to do any conversions there. And they did not know the sulfur content, so we're going to leave that sulfur content unknown checked. And we don't have any emission controls for residential furnaces. So we'll click the calculate button because we've completed our data entry. And what that does is brings up all of the pollutants and their emissions that are associated with this particular source. And now we have to click on the close button to continue the importing of that data into my TICE project. So the next screen that comes up is the emission import options screen. And in this screen, you can select which pollutants you want to import into your TICE project. And what I would recommend doing is leaving them all selected to start with, because you can always go into your TICE project and remove them if you don't want them again. So normally what I would do is click on the import button. However, you'll see that I have that same problem because my text size is too big for TICE, so that is not there. And if you happen to have this happen to you, you can do two things. You can either fix your text size in your computer settings, or you can click the Alt-I on your keyboard, and that is a keyboard shortcut for importing data. So if I press Alt-I on my keyboard, that's going to import that data. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And now you can see in the linear data entry view that those emissions were imported into my TICE project. What I also want to show you is that non-point reporting period. So TICE also, if you click edit here, TICE also entered all of the data for the reporting period in. What I'd like to show you here is that this is what we went over last week, is that you should fill out these data collected from fields and this data collected by fields. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I know we're over time, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it because it is important. So data collected from, I'm going to click on these three dots to add who collected the data. Who the data was collected from, just because it's important to do this. So again, click on the add button and then type in who you collected it from. Add as much data as you can. General manager of clean natural gas, and a phone number. And I'll click OK, check it over, make sure you did everything okay. And then click OK, and now we can add that person. And then we're going to add ourselves from the data collected by. And I'm going through this fast because I went over it last week. So you guys should be familiar, or maybe it was the week before, I can't remember. But one of those weeks I went through this. You guys should remember how to do it. And if you don't, let me know, or let us know and we'll help you do it. Now the comments in the notes, I say to enter them in this comments field. But what I've been noticing is that might be the best place to do it, because if you were to go through the calculator again, like say that you collected better data on the throughput for natural gas combustion and you wanted to recalculate your emissions, if you would enter comments here, when you relaunch that calculator, Tyson moves them and they're not easy to find. So where I recommend you entering comments instead is this QA/QC notes field, because those stick even if you have to relaunch the calculator. So I'm going to type in some QA/QC notes, and while I'm doing that, is there any questions on anything?
Nope, no questions so far.
Okay. I'm just going to enter some information here because I think it's important, and this is especially important for the people that are reviewing your emissions inventory. If this data is in there, it's really easy to check. And then I'm going to enter the heating value. And I'm going to put something about the sulfur content. Maybe I want to add a little explanation here. 900 cubic feet of natural gas was sold to reservation homes in 2016. So according to the General Manager of Clean Natural Gas, 900,000 cubic feet of natural gas was sold to reservation homes in 2016. The heating value was 980 BTUs per cubic feet. They did not know sulfur content. So someone that's looking at your data can say, okay, I see where they got this data. I see how they did the conversion from cubic feet to million cubic feet, and I see where they got their heating value. So that's why it's important to enter some notes on the data that you collect. So I click OK to make sure I save this. And that's how you go about entering a non-point source into your TICE project.